or discussion shall be- no action or discussion shall be taken on any item raised during public comment, except that committee members may briefly respond to statements or questions. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Please turn off all cell phones and pagers. I don't see any public comments in the chat. I don't know if anybody that's on the Zoom has any public comment at this time.
Oh. Oh, okay. I was gonna say we had a comment, but it's Hamid asking me to record the meeting.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I'm going to skip item 4 for now, since we do not have a quorum, and I will move on to item 5, which is presentation regarding process and methodology for conducting traffic studies.
Chair and committee members, this is Christopher Sene. I'm helping Nader and Hamid to present some background on how transportation complaints and requests are being addressed in Mountain House CSD. So let me share my screen. So let me see here. Yeah, so hopefully everyone can see the screen a little here. So
Yes,
a
we
little
can.
background. Can everyone see it?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. So the background is that I have been helping Mountain House for the past a few years, and professionally, I have 40 years of experience in transportation. So very glad to be able to help Mountain House. I spent 7 years as a traffic engineer in the city of Palo Alto. So have dealt with similar kind of issues. So so let me see here. So I just want to give a brief introduction agenda. 4 items we'll be addressing. First item is essentially showing the background of how transportation engineers deal with requests for a certain type of traffic treatment, traffic control. There are criteria and warrants that we follow that the state of California and also typically the transportation professional use as standards that we try to adhere to. That will prevent us, from lawsuits and unnecessary kind of control being implemented. And second item we'll be addressing is typical transportation complaints and requests that Mountain House staff receive from residents of Mountain House. And once we receive those requests, how we go about responding to this request and doing evaluation. And that's the third item, the Mountain House CSD process of completing this type of investigation and recommendation. And then how do we prioritize what gets funded and what get constructed and not get constructed. So in general, there are 2 major types of requests that many times residents want and thought it would solve everything. The first one is most residents think that the always stop will prevent speeding and is safer and all that. So that is a essentially a perception, but in reality, for always stop, traffic engineers needs to use a warrant. So there is a multi-way stop warrant criteria that we use to make sure that stop signs, that stop signs are being installed according to state standards. And so I'm just trying to highlight here 3 major criteria. One is there need to be a demonstrated collision issue, meaning accidents. In this case, for a 12-month period, we look at the collision, and it needs to be 5 or more collision that could be solved or susceptible to correction by putting stop signs. So including, for example, T-bone crashes, meaning broadside accidents, all that. So we'll evaluate if there's first, if there's 5, and if there's 5 or more in the 12-month period, are those collision correctable with an always stop? And the other 2 are volumes related and delay. A major street needs to have 300 or more vehicles per hour for 8 hours. And a minor street need to have 200 units, meaning including autos, pedestrian, bicycles, all that. It needs to be 200 or more. And also the average delay on the side street experienced by these modes of travel need to be 30 seconds or more at the highest hour. One question might be is that why do we have all these criteria? The reason for this criteria is that it needs to be prioritized to see which one really meets and needs a always stop. Otherwise, if you can imagine, every street, every corners have always stop. Then the if it is installed not justified, then out of frustration, the auto drivers would come to a rolling stop, or sometimes just ignore it, because they realize that there's hardly any vehicles on the side street, and could result in serious injury, and also the constant stop all that contribute obviously to noise pollution as well. So the next slide shows the other traffic control that residents tend to think that would solve all the problem, and this is a signal control. So signal control, you probably can guess, is that requires a lot more traffic when the intersections are busier. Then without the proper control, you result in intolerable delay, results in queuing, and results in many collisions, because people without the proper control would just ignore and run through the intersection. However, signal, in order for it to be installed, the state of California has potentially up to 9 different types of wardens, depending on the location. Typically, as the first step, we look at warden number 3. It's called peak hour, as depicted here. This chart here, let's say, for example, to read this is that the horizontal axis is called a major street. Let's say, for example, a major street has 1,000 vehicles, and then on a minor street, depending on the type of street, whether it's 1 lane each way, each direction, or 2 lanes or more one direction and 1 for the other direction. For the minor street, let's say, for example, if it's 1,000 on a major street, you need to be about 200 on the minor street, for example, for an agency to consider that potentially the traffic is high enough such that they could consider a signal. So that's usually, we start with peak hour, because that's the most readily available traffic volumes to collect. So if this is met, then we go to look at warden 2 and warden 1 and 2, 8 hour and 4 hour, to make sure that it really meets the signal warden. Also, if an intersection has many, for example, students crossing, all that, there is also a warden to deal with that. And crash, collision experience, all that. So the perception that signals will solve everything, in terms of collision, it actually is not true. Once you install signals, extensive studies have shown that because vehicles are trying to speed through an intersection while perhaps at the end of a green phase coming to a red. A lot of time it caused a lot of rear end accidents because a car suddenly stopped. Now another the following car just slammed into the car that stopped. So a lot of time there are a lot of rear end collision. And of course, you know, is that if there is a running of red light, the collisions are really serious because of the speed involved. And not the least of which is that nowadays, because of cost involved, a typical signal could cost between $400,000 to $500,000. So the next few slides shows what's involved when we evaluate a request or complaint, you know, about some safety issue in Mountain House. There are four typical requests and complaints we've seen so far in the past few years. The speeding is number one. You know, we can understand, obviously, you know, if there's a big speeding issue, residents are concerned about safety of crossing the street. So that is definitely, you know, something we need to address if that's a issue or not. And especially near busy intersection, and if sort of young kids are involved crossing the street, or that pedestrian crossing is a big concern as well. And resulting, you know, result of pedestrian or speeding, a lot of times get requests for stop signs control, signal control, or pedestrian type of control to make it safer. And because of speeding, a lot of time we staff needs to deal with how to slow the traffic down, what we call traffic calming. So these are the four major type of requests and complaints that we have seen. And the other thing I want to talk about is that Mountain House has slowly looked into potentially dealing with, you know, instead of signal or instead of always stop, what about a roundabout? And a roundabout, in general, in many aspects, you know, is much safer if you work out such that instead of signal or instead of always stop, the roundabout could be used as a control to assign right away. And this chart here shows that, for example, a signal has many conflicting points, including the fact that those vehicles that try to run the red light, you know, it could be a real hazard because of the speed involved. Whereas roundabout, instead of 32 points of conflict in the signal, roundabout has only about 8 points of conflict for vehicles. As the vehicles get the intersection, you know, that merging area, those are only a few points involved, and also at a lower speed. Consequently, because of lower speed, if there's a collision, we're not going to see fatality like a red light running, for example. And also maintenance, you know, there's not much maintenance, unlike a signal. And also because of roundabout, typically is designed for 15 to 20 miles per hour travel. So speeding is not going to be an issue. So the process is that once Hamid receives a complaint or request, it's being logged into a database, and then we investigate it. And some of the investigation, depending on the situation, might require data collection for speed, you know, I mean, for volumes or for speed. We sort of need to put out tubes, all that to count, or sometimes for intersection, sometimes someone needs to go out there and do the count. And also, nearly almost every situation, we like to verify first and foremost, we look at 5-year collision data to establish, is this intersection or this roadway, is there a history of collision that we need to be concerned about? Because safety is our #1 concern. So every situation nearly, we look at 5-year collision data. And then, we need to check whatever recommendation we come up with. We check the state standard, we check the Mountain House CSD standards to make sure that whatever recommendation is made, meets those meets those standards. And then we have a recommendation. And lastly, gives the result to CSD staff review, and then CSD staff would prioritize it based on available budgets and funds, and then also depends on the board priority. So so with that, I'll stop my sharing and see if there's any questions.
Yes, I'm here. This is Sanjay. I have a comment and a question.
Okay.
So first, it looks like based on your data, roundabouts are much safer, right? It looks like, right? In terms of accidents.
Correct.
And I do see a lot of roundabouts here in Mountain House, especially in Cuesta Village, maybe in other villages also. So the second thing is there are also a lot of two-way traffic, not four-way stop sign.
Correct.
So what is the criteria for two-way stop sign?
Yeah, that's a good question, Sanjay. By default, mostly it's like this. By default, a larger street, in technical term, we call collector street, because those streets are larger. It collects the traffic from a smaller local street, we call. So the larger streets typically, since the time of construction of a subdivision, for example, typically the larger streets have free flow, right? So all the side streets that comes out from a residential subdivision typically has stop sign control. Typically, yeah, that's how it typically operates. And let's say, for example, Mountain House Parkway, if there's any street, Mountain House Parkway may not be a good example, maybe Central. So Central or Great Valley, you'll notice that, especially Great Valley, nearly all the locations on Great Valley typically has the free flow, and all the streets that tease into Great Valley stops. So that's how, by default, usually the smaller streets are stop control.
Got it. And you said that you look at the 5-year data, accident data, if in case you see cases where the accidents are rising or
a trend,
pedestrian accidents. In that case, if it's a two-way, then the MHCSD looks at the data and decides, okay, now maybe we need to have four-way stop or a traffic signal. Is that the way it works?
Yeah. So for depending on the situation, if it is a two-way stop currently, first we need to determine, including looking at collision, to say, is there a collision issue? If there's not a collision issue, then depending on, let's say, for example, a two-way stop and someone requests a four-way, then we will need to see, is there traffic volumes on the main line, main street and side street that meets the four-way stop, right? So yeah, so I think it's almost like a progression of trying to see what it meets first. It first need to meet always stop before I go to signal, because signal criteria are even higher.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions?
Okay, yeah, I was
Okay.
just making
I
sure.
don't
he's
think
gonna mention
there's
that.
any additional questions right now, Chris, but that's really helpful. I do appreciate you sharing that information and going through the process. I know our residents will find it helpful as well.
Great.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
very
you.
helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Do we want to go to 6 project updates, or is there a different one?
At Transportation Committee presentation, an update to the projects.
Okay, perfect.
President Moreno and honorable participants in this meeting, I would like to present to you an update to the transportation and traffic related projects that we completed in Mountain House and the projects that are planned to be done in the near future and some kind of further away. And I would like to give you an introduction to a tool that we use to evaluate the pavement conditions, and then provide you with the project updates, the project that have been completed and the future projects, and some updates about the projects that we asked our traffic engineers, AMG, to review and provide us with their comments. In our evaluation of roadway conditions, we use a program. It's called Street Saver. Is a pavement management program, and we pay a membership fee annually to that. And that program received the data from us based on our inspections, and it organizes, stores, and retrieves the data. You know, we provide them the road condition, number of potholes, cracks, the overall road condition at different segments. And then this program make a quick analysis and does some calculations and provide us with some recommendation to perform necessary treatments to bring the road condition to an acceptable rate. And it's also, we provide this program with the unit cost for each type of treatment, and also give us the overall cost of the project and for the type of the treatments we're going to do. Why this program is needed? Because, as I mentioned, it does inventory management. It organizes stores and retrieves data, and it keeps track of the pavement condition, and we can see how much the road condition was improved after a series of treatment, and also provide us with the funding necessary to perform those kind of maintenance and treatments. It helps us to make decisions between the life of the project, with the how long we're going to have a road in good condition, and based on our budget, and to help us to justify the funding needs, to bring it to the board and provide it to you and justify the funding that we need and the support that we need from you. One of the most important factors in doing maintenance on a timely manner is to prevent extensive damage and deterioration to the road. For example, as you see in this chart, this has been studied based on several projects. And as you see, in the first almost 14 years of a new asphalt, a new street, the drop in the quality of the pavement is 40%. But if you don't do any kind of preventive treatment, then the quality within the next almost 5 years gonna drop another 40%. And still, if nothing is done, then within the next 5 to 6 years is gonna be kind of in a reconstruction phase, because the normal treatment and maintenance work will not work. You have to reconstruct it. Yes. You cannot see it? Are you serious?
We are not seeing on the Zoom.
Sorry, let me see. Oh my God, shall I start from the beginning then?
No, it's okay, I think.
Yeah, that's yours. Yeah.
Let me see. I am sorry, it was my fault. Let me put it here. Let me see. I knew I'm gonna fail. Okay, let's do this one, all right? Or this one. Let's do this one.
No, the one.
Okay,
Yeah, that one.
now I hope you all can see, right?
Click on it.
Sorry,
You're starting to share, Hamid.
it
Yep.
has to be on.
There
this.
you go. There you go.
Sorry. I want to cheat, but it didn't work. Okay, shall I start from the beginning, President Marino? You're okay? Okay. Yeah, as I mentioned previously, the chart
Hamid,
presents.
Hamid, you're not showing your presentation right now.
I think it has to be on that screen.
Yeah, it
because
has
It's
to
not
be.
going to be on the screens. in
Okay,
the-
let me change the share. Let me stop share and do reshare. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it on this one. It is not working properly.
Yeah, it was showing there for a minute.
Is it showing it right now?
That's good.
Say slideshow
No, sorry, guys.
from current slide.
Here? Okay. Let's go back, huh?
Can you see that, Sarah?
Good. I see it.
Okay. Anyway, as I mentioned before, all the maintenance has to be done in a timely manner before the roadway condition reaches to a point that the low cost maintenance will not work. Then you need to reconstruct the work, go through the base and do a more expensive repairs. We always get a monthly report, and they are usually emailed to us, and we go to their website, to the database, to look at the reports to see how we are doing in order to plan for the future repairs. As you see, this is the most recent one after we did the recent repairs on arterials and Cuesta Village. As you know, we did only crack seal and Cuesta Village, and the rest of the project on arterials, we did pavement grinding and resurfacing. We placed new asphalt. We did crack seal, and we did a slurry seal. And I want to give you a brief description. A slurry seal has the highest point in increasing your PCI, pavement condition index. It gives you a jump of almost 10 for the road condition, but crack seal has almost 5. And the other repairs like pavement grinding and overlay gives you almost 2 points, I believe, because you create a kind of flaw in the uniformity of the body of the pavement. But the slurry seal works as a cap and protects the pavement better. As you see here, the current average PCI for all of our roadways is 83, as you see on the top left corner. And in the middle, you see the PCI for each individual type of roadway. For example, you see a PCI of 81 for arterials, including Central and Mustang, Mountain Parkway. And you see 85 for collectors. And for residential estate, you see a PCI of 85 also, which is our target based on the optimum budget and the efficiency of the repairs that they propose. And as you see there, we have an item for urban minor arterials. Those are the arterials like Bethany Road and Kelso Road and Henderson and Wickland Road that we really don't do that much. We do repairs, but not extensive repairs, because those roads will be gone after those areas is developed. And arterials, one of the reasons, as I said, our target is a PCI of 85, average PCI of 85 for all of roadways. And you see 81, the majority is because of a portion of Grant Line Road from Great Valley, from Great Valley Parkway to the county line. Okay, it's being improved right now. They're gonna doing work. That's has a very low PCI right now, but that's why it brought our overall PCI down on arterial and Byron Road. We do occasional potholing on Byron Road and that portion of Grand Line Road, which does not have a big impact on the PCI, but all of our other roadways, arterials are definitely above 85 based on the records. And I want to give you a comparison, another monthly report, the previous one, in order for you to compare. The next one, as you see, before we did these repairs, the arterials had a PCI of 77. Collector had the same as 85. We didn't do any repairs on collectors. As you see, and the residential had the same PCI as before. But the overall or road condition was improved to very good, to 90% of our roadways compared to 92% that we had. I'm sorry, 94%. It was improved to 94% relative to 93%, which we had in the previous report. And that shows the effectiveness of the maintenance that we are doing on our project. And as I say, this Street Saver is a very helpful program. They send us reminder. This is an email that I get at the end of each month and reminds me that, you know, the PCI of similar size agencies, similar to us, to a Mountain House Community Service District, is around 64, while ours is 85, which is considered a very good condition.
Sorry, before you move on.
Yeah.
Yes,
With that information, I think it would be helpful if we shared this information and maybe even the screen before that shows the current conditions when we go through the budget process.
yes,
I think it's important for the rest of the board
Yes.
to see this information. I know we spend a lot of money and we focus a lot of time to
exactly.
ensure that our roads are in such good
Yes.
condition. I had no idea that the system that we use actually would produce a report like this. I know we're always trying to keep it at least 85
Yes,
as our PCI number, but I think this would be helpful for the rest of the board just to see that what this program does and how it tracks our road conditions, especially the difference once Grant Line Road opens
yes,
and how it's going to jump up again.
yes.
So I think it would be really important for us to include that when we go through the budget process into the 23,
Definitely.
24 cycle. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, right
It's
now.
really, I mean, I think it's, I really helpful information. I had no idea this existed, so.
It's
it's
a
good.
great tool, and in the past, when it was done by, because right now we are doing this program in-house. Before, it was done by a consultant. And that consultant had a presentation for the board, I guess it was 2018 or 19. And we plan, Steve asked us to prepare a presentation to the board just for the PMP, that we are now working to update, add all the newly accepted streets to the PMP, then we can have a presentation to you.
President Moreno, one point to bring up, based on the chart that Hamid showed earlier, it is a very good indicator of what the conditions are and what would happen if you don't do repairs. And we did make this presentation to the board several years ago when we started the PMP program. And in our discussions with other cities, we've noticed that most of the cities have such a huge backlog of streets that they haven't been able to keep up with, that they're all below 60, 65. And in our effort, because we started early with our road being in good condition, it was easier to spend less money and keep them up than would have been to let them go for a few years. And then you would have to spend a lot more money and it would be harder to catch up. So I think this is a really good presentation of that.
Yeah, I agree, especially the last slide where it shows how we compare to other communities, right? Where I think they were at, 64 is their number average. Yeah, so similar size agencies at 64, I think that's important for us to share with our residents as well. So they understand that we not only maintain high roads, but that translates into cost savings throughout the
Long
budget
term.
year, year
Exactly.
over year over year. And we've been able to
Yes.
do that for several years. So again, I think this is all really good information, not only for the board, but also for our residents
Yes.
to continue to see that. I love. I
Yeah,
love
we were at the
Great.
city of Tracy last week at the Public Works Directors meeting, and they made a presentation on their PMP program. And they're about $30 million behind, but they're spending about $3.5 million a year. And their CPI is PCI is at 63. And they had projected about 4 years earlier that if they don't spend the money that they need, that it would go from where it was 65 to 63. And it was so amazing that it actually did. They weren't spend the money and it was exactly at 63. So it's a very good program.
Yeah, and I guess the other, and this is for something further down the road, but to see, if there's a way to put a number to what that is, right? So as your roads, as you continue to have degradation with your roadways, if you go from 65 to 63, what is that number to get it back up to
Yes.
to an acceptable level? 5 million, 10 million? That's something else. Yeah, it is a
Yeah,
lot. And that's
it
why
is,
I think
it's
it's important for us just to, keep that in mind. And at some point, down again, it's not urgent, but yeah, just to be able to, so our
To show
residents
that,
know
yes,
that,
absolutely.
what we're doing here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you
That's
very
great.
much.
I like that.
In the next section, I would like to provide you with an update for the projects. We finished the Mountain House Arterials and Cuesta Village repairs. It has been completed. We finished it with almost $400 under the budget. Railroad crossing and street signing and striping, it has been completed. The signing and striping at the railroad crossing was requested by the railroad authorities. And that was a lump sum project and they finished the project. Last time I had a discussion about the future project that we are working. We are working right now even on it. First one is traffic signal synchronization. We're gonna connect all the traffic signals from one system to Binary Road and Mountain House Parkway to work with each other when somebody gets a green light at one intersection. When he travels and the green lights, he will see the green lights all the way to Binary Road. And AMG is working on the design and it's almost at the end of it, and the design will be ready for us to review. They recently called us and asked us for some additional information like IP addresses for each cabinet at each intersection. And we are working for the county to provide them with those information. Installing fiber optic lines, that's gonna be several rings on Mountain House Parkway and Mustang Way to Central Parkway to Main Street and to the Town Hall. The original proposal by AMG was submitted, but they considered Arnado Boulevard as one of the roads that will be, the fiber optic will be installed, but the installation of fiber optic on that street is part of a condition of approval for another project. That's why we asked the AMG to revise the proposal and submit another proposal, and instead of Arnado, put the fiber optics on Mustang Way, because we have to find out what's gonna happen to Arnado Boulevard. Another bid package for another road repair project that we have actually put together. The bid package is ready for public bidding, but we are working on it to review it and do a QA, QC on it, and then publish it in Tracy Press and put it on the website that we use for public bidding. As you know, and you are aware of, and we are receiving reports from people about their concerns about the speeding cars and dangerous roadway condition, because people don't stop at the stop signs or at crosswalks. We always transfer this type of request to our AMG or traffic engineers to provide us with their recommendation, because if anything will be warranted or no actions would be needed, and if it is just a law enforcement issue. And AMG provide us with a detailed report. They do usually traffic count, pedestrian count, volume count, and a speed count. And based on those information, they provide us with their recommendation. And the two projects that they worked on provided us with their recommendation are sign and striping on Central Parkway at Legacy and Heritage. Another one is a community dot at Recreo and Shields and Fremont. The community dot is in, as you know, is in Bethany Village, and the Shields and Fremont in Hanson Village.
The other one, not to interrupt, sorry, but we had mentioned, I'd mentioned it, I don't remember if it was at one of our transportation committee meetings or a board meeting, but looking at the RRFBs at
Yes,
Central and
yes, I'm
Ramsey. Are we
gonna,
looking at-
this
we talking
is
about
just the topic I'm gonna
Okay.
discuss.
Okay,
I'm gonna
perfect,
discuss.
thank you.
But because they provided us with those
Yeah,
kind of
okay.
new RRFPs at the center.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
At the median, yes, definitely. Thank you for reminding me. But anyway, as I mentioned in my brief description of the projects, we finished our 30 years on Cuesta Village project. The completion date was August 30th. I don't know why I say construction in progress. I'm so sorry. The bid amount was 678,660, but we finished it at 678,000 and $678,231. It's almost $430 less than what we asked for. I'm providing you with some photos of before and after. On the left, you see intersection of Central and Mustang Way on the west side. And this is before we did our repair. There was a dip. As you see in the photo, you see cars, bottom of the cars scraping the asphalt. It was a dip, I believe it was created on top of that sewer line. But on the right, you see that area has been repaired. There is no sign of the cracks, and we have a new striping. This is in some area we just did crack sealing. This is at the intersection of Grand Line Road and Mountainous Parkway. We didn't do anything in that area because this is part of the future development that will be done by developers. It's a condition of approval for their projects. But we did full repairs south of intersection of Grand Line Road and Mountainous Parkway on Mountainous Parkway. The picture on the right, as you see, shows the condition of road after we performed the slurry seal and a new striping on Dianza Boulevard just north of Mustang Way. And this is another road. We had subsidence on Escuela Drive in Bethany, and we monitored this for a while. And during this project, we repaired that portion. We went into the subbase. There was no issue with the subbase. I believe there is some lateral spreading, but it wasn't a big deal, and it was repaired. We're gonna keep an eye on it and see if there is anything gonna happen in the future. Railroad crossing project, I explained that it was requested by the railroad authorities. We did all the requested sign and striping, and including in that report, we did some striping on the streets in Mountain House, especially on Heritage Road and on Tramonto Road in Cuesta, and one crosswalk on in Cuesta, also on, I believe it was on Marquis. Anyway, the project has been completed exactly like the other project, the arterial project. It was completed on August 30th. I'm going to provide you with some photos of the new signs that were installed. The two pictures that you see on the left, those are from Heritage Road. As I said, people were complaining about speeding cars. They said, since you installed speed cushions on Legacy, all the traffic are using Heritage Road and going at high speed. AMG reviewed this, and they've suggested we install new signs and new striping, like yield signs on the road, and some yield signs, as you see on the left two pictures. The right is Tramonto Drive. As you know, we don't have center line striping in our local street in residential areas. But when we got the complaint, I guess somebody had an experience with a car running into his front yard after missing a stop sign or something. And we studied that, AMG studied that, they proposed us to install new yield sign, a school crossing sign, and the striping in the center line striping, because it gives us, the drivers, a feeling that the road is not wide enough for them to maneuver or feel that they have to stay within that line, within the lane, and it, make them mentally to slow down and go at lower speed. But all these things was done based on the recommendation we got from the traffic engineers, AMG. Based on my previous presentation, we had several complaints about these two intersections on Central Parkway, Heritage and Legacy. And AMG did a traffic study with speed monitoring and traffic count, pedestrian count. And first they proposed to put a new signal. It's a type of signal, it's not really signal, it's called Hawk. I guess we discussed it last time, but the cost is similar to a traffic signal, it's around 400 to 500,000. But this type of restriping and traffic calming approaches that they propose have been done in other cities, especially in the Bay Area, and it worked very well. What they are proposing now is to change the striping to make the line narrower, almost 150 feet before the crosswalk, put yield signs, change the speed limit when they approach to this intersection from 35 miles per hour to 25 miles, and add an RFB in addition to the 4 that we have at 4 corners, to each direction inside the median. And that's what they came up. You see the photos, if the way that the striping gonna be changed to make the lane width from 12 feet to almost 10 feet, 11 feet. And it has been proved that it impacts the driver's attitude, and they're gonna slow down when they see that the road, the lane started narrowing down. As I mentioned, another point of control would be to use law enforcement to be there. But these are their recommendations for those two intersections. Another project based on the complaints we received and reports from people was on Comunidad between Heritage and Rock Rio. And the proposed traffic calming addition was that sign, as you see, says that the state law requires that you give yield to pedestrian and add a center line to the center of that road to kind of mentally impact the drivers, affect the drivers that they have to slow down. Another location that they reviewed and provided, after a traffic study, they provided us with the recommendation is the intersection of Shields and Fremont in Henson Village. And the only addition they come up with is a crosswalk, because they said many of the students from high school use that access road to enter this area to go to their houses. And that's all for this intersection. About the future CIP project, as I explained it in my presentation, there is a traffic signal synchronization project, fiber optic lines, and Byron and Vikram road repairs. Traffic signal synchronization is in the final stage of design, and it will be submitted to us very soon to review, and then we plan on submitting it to Caltrans for final review and the grant that we need to receive to go to the construction phase. Next project will be installing fiber optic lines. It will be on Mountain House Parkway, going through it will go to Central Parkway through Mustang Way, then we'll go on Main Street and will be connected to Town Hall to our future control room in order to be able to control our traffic signals and communicate with our facilities, water treatment plant and wastewater treatment plant. Project location, as I mentioned, is Central Parkway from Mountain House Parkway to Central, Mountain House Parkway from Mountain House, Mustang Way from Central to, Mustang to Mountain House to Central Parkway, I'm sorry. Central Parkway from Aldrich to Main Street, from Central Parkway to Town Hall. Right now, we have this bid package ready. We have to do a quality control and assurance on it. And that project will include asphalt patching, crack seal, and we may do some slurry seal, but the decision is if we don't have enough budget, we may instead do the repairs on Byron Road. And I'm sorry that I had some mistakes in my presentation. And if you have any question, I will be happy to answer.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I have a Director Moreno. I have a couple of questions,
Sure, go ahead.
comments. Thank you for the presentation. It's a great presentation. First, regarding the Heritage and Central, that project, narrowing down the overall width from 12 feet to 11 feet and having a sign for 25 miles per hour. I was just thinking that, what about the speed cushions? Speed cushions work very well in many places. Do you think that will be helpful? Because just having a speed sign might not be enough. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that one.
Okay. I am not the traffic engineer, but based on my conversation with the traffic engineers, speed cushions cannot be installed on arterials because they are the true road for fire trucks and emergency vehicles. And I believe will not be warranted. It's not the type of road that you can do. But there are other measurements, and it has been done in other places and have been successful, the approach that they are taking. And we're gonna install an RRFP in the center too. But if it doesn't work, because sometimes you cannot go, but we may go with traffic signal, but still it requires some traffic studies, and the traffic engineers go through design and evaluate the condition. But on arterials, no. Speed cushions cannot be an option.
And what is RRFB? Sorry.
RRFB is, you see those rectangular flashing beacon. RRFB stands for rectangular rapid flashing beacons. When you push the buttons, those lights start, and you hear a voice that says pedestrian crossing or something, be careful, stop for pedestrian. Yeah, we installed it at the intersection of Legacy and Heritage on Central, and at the intersection of Prosperity and Mustang on Mustang. And we have it in some neighborhoods, in neighborhoods C and D.
Yes, and that was great. RRFB on Heritage and Legacy. There is one area which is Arturo and Arturo and Marcus.
Yeah.
Because after coming from Central Parkway on Arturo all the way to Great Valley. So you cross Cuesta first, then comes Marcus. So after crossing Cuesta is a long, like a half mile or something, distance all the way to Great Valley. That's where the speeding happens.
Yes,
So-
we are aware of that. I provided the AMG with this location to study and provide us with their comments.
Okay.
Yeah, there has been something submitted on, I believe, Gov Outreach or whatever the name of that website is, because I always call it Gov Outreach, I guess Go Reach or Go something. Yeah, somebody reported it and we are taking care of it.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You are very welcome.
Are there any comments in the chat by chance? Sorry, I can't see that because I'm not on the Zoom. I was just curious if there were any.
I guess there is
Um,
one, let me see.
Director Moreno, there's a question. Be shown to WebEx too. And I think someone is asking, do you see the presentation? We took care of that. Is it Hamid who is presenting, correct? And we will put all of these presentations on the website for all to view.
Right. Okay. So I guess I just have a couple questions too. I know you addressed the area behind the school on Heritage with new signage,
On Heritage,
right,
yes.
on Heritage. I'm
Yes.
just wondering, are we looking at other streets behind schools for similar signage or striping needs? I've had some concerns from residents with the same issue of, we put the speed cushions in front of the schools and now everyone's redirected, or theoretically they're redirecting to the back of the school and they're having some issues back there. So there's the street behind Bethany School, which the name of it escapes me. I drive by it every day and I can't think of the name of it.
Which neighborhood are you talking about?
Bethany. So the one
Oh, that's
behind the school.
Communidad.
Yeah,
that's
so
what-
that's on there. I saw that. And then there was one, there's one in Cuesta that they were bringing up. So anyway, if at some point we could look at a map and just consider, have AMG maybe look at
Definitely.
other areas
Yeah, I
on the
believe
back
one of
sides of
the,
all the schools, because I know we've addressed the fronts, but now the backs.
yeah,
starting
one
to
of the
become an
area
issue.
of concern, I believe, was in Altamont. I guess is it Piedmont? The north is
Oh,
San
right,
Francisco,
yeah.
I guess the south, that's another one. Yeah, we reported to AMG definitely, and thank you very
Okay.
much for bringing that. But definitely, I created a list of these streets around the schools, the school loops.
Right.
And I said, yeah, and see if you know, Henson, in both sides of the school, they have there.
Right. Okay.
But definitely I will contact
And then,
AMG to do that.
and then I guess my last question would be, for stoplight, I know we're working on the synchronization project for Mountain House Parkway. Have we, excuse me, received any complaints or have we looked at the timing? Northbound Mountain House Parkway, when you make the left on Grand Avenue into the new shopping center, that left-hand turn signal seems to take an extremely long time. And I'm just wondering if we've had any complaints. If we haven't yet, we
No.
may, especially as more people are going to Starbucks or JEI Learning Center, and especially as the gas station opens, because northbound Mountain House Parkway, you have to turn left at Grand, right? Because you can't go up to Byron Highway and make a U-turn. So that left-hand turn, the light's pretty slow.
I experienced that too. Definitely, I bring it.
So
up.
that's one that's been on my list. If we could,
Sure, sure.
excuse me, take a look at doing whatever we have to do with just
Okay.
that timing.
Yeah, definitely. I noticed that.
I am, and that's why I bring it up now. We'll be proactive on that one, especially after the 28th, when everyone's going into the gas station. Yeah,
Just one more question, Hamid. Just in what's usually the process is just high level quickly, maybe that like in terms of recognizing the areas where there should be a signage or should be the four-way stop or any changes. Is it like on a yearly basis or 6-month basis, the reports or the data is studied?
You may know that all the communities in Mountain House have been designed by structural, civil engineers, and all the plans have been reviewed and designed by traffic engineers.
Okay.
And we don't expect any problems because, as I said, they have been, the striping and signing have been designed by traffic engineer and reviewed by several other groups, including our office. That's why with this recent experience that we had, the feedback we are getting from people, we changed some of those approaches. Now, when community development department reviewing plans, when they see, for example, AMG is proposing this new sign, the yield sign with somebody walking and is a square sign, large sign, they are adding that too. We are modifying and asking our traffic engineers to be more cautious because in the future, we may face the same issues that they are facing in other older neighborhoods. But
Yes.
all the designs are done by traffic engineers, and how we approach the new areas that people are asking or we're making changes, it comes from you. Because when residents have issues, they report it to us. Then we ask a qualified licensed engineer, in this case would be a traffic engineer, to review it, to go in the field and study it and count the number of people, pedestrian, cars, vehicles, motorcycles, everything, and provide us with a new design for that area. We personally don't make any decision. The only decision that we make is, for example, because we don't have a budget, we put a bid package together. We say, okay, it's going to be done in 6 months because right now we cannot do that. But otherwise, everything comes from traffic engineers, and all the decision, if a two-way stop intersection need to be changed into a four-way, it actually comes either from the school district as a request or the residents and reviewed by a traffic engineer. And if warranted, we will take care of it. If it's not warranted, then we send a response to the applicants or people that are requesting that this has not been warranted. Everything has to be done legally because we have to be able to defend our decision.
Got it. And just last quickly, so the residents can directly email you, or there is a website where they report this?
I believe the website is Go Request. If you go to Mountain House Community's website,
Okay.
I believe there is a button. It says report a concern.
Oh,
And
got
when
it.
you
Got
say
it.
report a
Yes.
concern, there are several boxes that says traffic,
Yes.
water, sewer, or my neighbor, or board members. You can report them then to us.
Yes, I know that. Thank you.
You are very welcome.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Are we good? Is that it? Any other, I know we're as an unofficial meeting, but were there any other comments? If there's none, I would like to thank everyone for their time this evening, and I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Good night.